So what advice, like what kind of mindset shift you have to have to be able to do that in real estate?
The mindset shift that you have to have.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good.
And that's the hardest thing for people to do. Because it's like we
It's
have
skill,
this,
though.
it's a skill because we have this mindset that we can do it better, right? And then if we don't have hands on the pulse, then it's gonna die, right?
What is the most money you've made in a year in real estate?
The most money I've made in a year in real estate, and I can only tell you what my taxes.
Of course.
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah, with the zeros.
Yeah.
Like the sixes and
Right, guys. I mean, it's up there with zeros to where
Yeah.
he has to buy, some assets to write it off. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bold Effect podcast. I'm your host, Mamadou Diallo. Today, guys, I have a very, very special guest for you, Mr. Phil, the head of the MP organization, which is a development organization. They do both residential real estate and also commercial real estate. I don't want to do injustice to him, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. But, guys, they have bunch of projects going on, I think, in the Georgia market. And what are the markets?
Georgia, Alabama, North Carolina, and Florida.
Right. So, guys.
Southeast. Yeah.
Boom. So today we're going to talk about all things, obviously, real estate, mindset, money, guys. I'm going to ask him, I don't know nothing about real estate at all. So you guys obviously can learn, how maybe you can get yourself started within your, real estate journey in general. All right. So, Phil, tell them what you do, who you are.
Okay.
What's your backstory?
So I am Phillip Blow, to all that don't know me, real estate development. I got started in construction when I was 12 years old. My dad actually had me join an apprenticeship program. Initially, I wanted to be an attorney, but that didn't work out. Dad was like, no.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just hated the studies, or?
No, I enjoy debating, and my angle was to help people. Right.
Okay.
Which now you can see in construction and development. Yeah. That's why we're doing affordable housing.
Exactly.
So, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I wasn't able to help people in the attorney route. Now I'm able to help them in the construction route. Yeah.
So it still works out.
Yeah, for sure.
Was your dad disappointed that you didn't end up becoming an attorney?
No, he was against it because he's a pastor. He was like, you're going to have to lie. So, yeah, that wasn't happening, man. Yeah, so.
Got it. So
he shut that down.
So let's get right into it. Right? So can you share your backstory? Like, how did you even get started in real estate development?
Real estate development. So I got started in real estate development inspired by one of my really good friends, Henry Johnson. Okay. And their firm does hospitals, student housing, as well as multifamily, right? Okay. And so I had been doing construction GC work for some time, went to school for it, and you just got tired of chasing the contracts, chasing the job. And I'm like, there got to be more money to be made and more opportunities. Unfortunately, I didn't know that this was a little bit more stressful. The reward is great, but the timeline is forever. Yeah. So I bit off more than I could chew initially. Okay. Now we're kind of settling in and just like, okay, this is a long game. Okay. It's worth it. But I feel that for me, it's rewarding because the opportunities that we create for other companies now. Got it. To partner with us, to work with us, the job creation, the industries that we bring to certain areas. Right. Yeah.
Because through the new development, obviously, there's always businesses coming in. Yeah. People need housing. Also, so a lot of the people need, obviously, affordable housing. So basically, from what you just said, it sounds like it almost leads back to the proximity, right? Yeah. So you have a friend who's doing X, which is new development in general, and that piqued your interest. And then through that proximity, then you start. Did he mentor you in any way?
Yeah. So he took me to a couple of sites, which is crazy because now we our office is right next door to each other. Yeah.
That's crazy, guys. Yeah. That's great. Guys, you're definitely the sum of the 5 people you hang around with the most, right? This goes back to, do you know the book, The Who Not How?
Yeah, I've heard of that. I've not read it yet.
Yeah, but I mean that's what you applied in real life.
Yeah.
It's not about. Okay, got it. So, what was your first project, and what lesson also did you learn from your first
development project?
Yeah, because your background in construction, meaning people used to hire you.
Yeah,
Can you give a little bit of
so my background was GC work. So we did a lot of work for Hilton Properties.
What is GC for somebody who doesn't even know? What
General contracting. So basically, if there's a project that's coming online that need to be built from the ground up, like from anywhere from the tree clearing to site work to concrete framing. So the general contractor would be the point of contact for that entire project.
Got it.
Right. Okay. And they would manage that project through their subs, what have you. Right. Okay. And so that's what I did for Hilton Properties. I did that for individuals. We built custom homes initially. That was our bread and butter until 2008 happened. And then bread and butter was gone and we got to figure things out. So that's what I initially did was GC work.
So you've been through the 2008 crash and remember what that feels like.
That was horrible. Man,
yesterday I was watching this movie called is it The Short?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's oh my gosh.
Big Short. So interesting. So just to give you how that worked for us business wise. So we did at least 3 homes a month, right? Okay. That we would generate income from. Okay. So in 2008, we only did 3 homes for the entire year. So
you went from 3 a month.
Yeah, 3 a month to 3 for the entire year. Thank God they were custom homes, but at the same time, it's just like that mentally, if you can't forecast the next 2 to 3 years and all you have is 3, no one's spending money, you're just working off of maybe the year before and that's all you have on the books. Man, that's scary. It was terrifying.
Of course, because you have payroll, bills. What does custom build means for somebody who
custom build is when you have a home by an individual that has a very unique design.
Got it.
And it's not your traditional design. Okay. Your fixtures, furnishes, they're all pretty much special order.
Got it.
Yeah, that's custom.
From the purchaser.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you went from that to saying, hey, I'm going to start my own company. I'm assuming at that point, no longer taking contracts from other companies, right?
Yeah. Then there was a little, there's a colorful part in between.
Okay, you want to share that?
Yeah, of course. He's like, are you scared? I'm not scared. This is my life. I can tell. No, I'm scared. Yeah. So when 2008 happened, I was in the residential space.
Got it.
Commercial was still moving. It wasn't moving as fast. And then you got to remember, construction is more relationship based. Any business, most businesses are relationship based. And so I had the relationships in the residential side, but nobody was spending money in the residential side. Okay. And so the commercial contracts are all locked up by people that had relationships. So then I was pretty much out of the game. Yeah. So I got my CDL and I started driving 18-wheelers for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then going from construction to 18-wheelers, the money is very different. Yeah, it was not the same. It was very depressing. And I gained a lot of weight and my health started to decline. And that's what got me into health and fitness bodybuilding.
Oh, wow.
And then I got back into construction after probably 7 years of professional bodybuilding. Yeah.
Guys, you have to check out his Instagram. The guy is like freaking buffed, completely. Okay. How did you jump into your first project? How did that happen?
My first development project. Now I'm feeling old. I got to go back. So my first development project was doing a project with a buddy of mine that we had partnered on a deal together. Okay. And that first project, unfortunately, was not a success. Right. So, you plan for a success. Yeah. But with owners or who you're doing it for, we didn't necessarily own the project. Okay. We did everything collectively. And there were some money issues there. We kind of got the rough end of that deal. But at the same time, the athlete side of me, it's like you never quit. You never give up.
Love that.
And so at that point, it's just like, okay, it didn't work out with these group of people, but I can do it on my own. And that's interesting. So I'm glad you asked about my first project because that's what really inspired me to really push forward and believe in myself and go on my own and really just go for it. And that in and of itself was a challenge, but by far the best decision I've made.
You know what's funny? One trait I did notice with most successful investors I've ever met throughout my real estate career, even if they're not in real estate, is one, they always have some background in a very disciplined, whatever sport. It could be soccer, it could be American football, it could be boxing, right? Because the resilience, I've seen a lot of people give up on real estate because of one bad experience from one deal. Like they do like one fix and flip, goes wrong, and they're completely, I'm out. Like this is, real estate sucks, real estate is not for me. So I feel like that helps, having that discipline before you get into entrepreneurship.
Sure.
Definitely help to keep pushing, because it's not an easy journey, right?
No, it's not.
Okay, gotcha. So now, with that being said, let's say somebody's getting started today, right? They want to jump into real estate. They don't know where to start. Oh, okay, this new development thing is interesting. I would like to, get into it and build houses.
Yeah.
One, what would be their first step? Second, how would you advise them that they start, like, to get their first project the easiest way possible? I mean, simplest. I mean, I say easy because there's nothing easy.
Yeah. So if they were wanting to get into development, I would say don't. Okay. No, I mean, I would, unless you know somebody and have somebody to mentor you in that process, I wouldn't say, I wouldn't tell them like, oh, just get into it, because it is capital intense, right? Okay. And it takes a lot of time to get that deal going, because development, unlike construction and GC and contract work, is very different, right? Okay. Because you are starting with raw land. There's no vision. There's absolutely nothing in sight. You're creating that from scratch. Right. So that process is so long. You're paying your architect, your surveyors, your engineers. You're bringing an idea to life, which is capital intense. And you're doing one or two things. You're taking it to market, or you're developing it yourself, which is more capital. Right? And so if I had to give advice to someone that was getting into construction development, I would say to invest in a relationship where somebody can mentor you, or to invest in the process of a new build so you can see the whole cycle go through. That's if you have capital. But if you don't have capital, I would say partner or build a relationship with someone that's doing it, that you admire, or follow them on Instagram or what have you. But I would say that would be the most important thing. Is just learn as much as you can hands-on and get that experience first, because there's so many steps to development. There's so many steps that when it comes to construction, framing up a wall is super easy. Right. Putting drywall is super easy. But to set that up for the guy to frame the wall, that's development. Got it. Yeah. Got it.
Well, the thing is, number one, when you say capital, somebody might be thinking $1 million, right?
Yeah.
What would you say on average? Let's say somebody want to get in and is like, hey, my first project, I want it to be maybe a single family or a duplex, whatever. How can they get in that way? Because I'm assuming that's like you invest in your capital, you're learning hands-on with that person that's basically doing the project. So you'd have to find somebody that already has the projects, has the vision, knows how to develop, has the crews, manage it, and you just learn through the process. That's what you mean, right?
Yeah.
So like, what would that be? Is it $1 million?
No. If you're learning like a single family home, right, and you're wanting to learn through that process and invest in something like that, you're talking about as little as $25,000, $50,000 or so, right? The reason why I say that is because if the land is purchased or not purchased, and it all depends on the area too, right? Because land acquisition may be $35,000 all the way up to $500,000 to $1 million, depending on the area. So if you're wanting to get in and just invest and learn the process, then you're talking somewhere between, $25,000, $50,000 to $100,000.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll tell from my experience with the fix and flips, right?
Yeah.
Even those are not really easy, even if you, because if you're new, one thing you don't know is how to vet a general contractor. Like even on the fix and flip side that we've done, 99.9% of the scams is with the general contractors, right?
Yeah.
Second, you don't know material costs. Third, you probably don't know how to find a good deal. Most people go on the MLS, ask a realtor to find them a deal, and they don't know what a deal looks like. And so every newbie that I have seen stuck with a project and completely lost their money is they started, I have the money, I have the credit, let me go to the bank, get the loan, and just because I heard on HGTV that fix and flip is sexy, right?
Yeah.
So the way I did my flip is how you said, my first flip ever. I wholesale 3 properties. Wholesaling is basically when you get a property on the contract and you just sell the contract. That's how I started. Build cash. Then my 4th contract, I'm like, okay, this property here, I want it to be my first experience. I had it under contract, right? I went and found somebody who was already doing flips.
Yeah.
He had the experience. I think they had been doing it for like 7 years. Buy the property at the auction. They had the money. So it's 2 guys, 2 best friends, childhood best friend. One of them have the money. The other one have the GC license. I say, guys, I have a property here. It's going to take about 60 days to renovate the property. It's like cosmetic. And I know you guys are used to like doing 8 months renovations because they buy at the auction.
Yeah.
Are you guys okay just doing it? I don't want to get paid up front. You do the project and then we just do a profit split in the back end, or you pay me whatever. But I just want to learn because I want to come on the field and see blah, blah. And they did it. That's how I did my first flip, and I learned material costs, how you vet a GC, all the stuff like the delays, whatever happened. So I would say, guys, even on the, whether it be new development or fix and flip, you always want to find somebody and invest. Like for me, it wasn't capital, but it was capital in a way because I did secure the deal. Yeah. But if you have capital, it's way better you find than like you just said. I really love that. So what would be the benefit, would you say, of investing passively in real estate than trying to manage your own project? And the only reason I'm asking that is because I get a lot of calls from 9-to-5ers, people that have 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Love their job. They're not planning on quitting, but they would love to do real estate. But their idea of doing real estate is managing their own properties, managing their own fix and flips, whatever. So what would be the benefit for investing passively where you're not managing it yourself, you know, in contrast to you managing it while you still have a 9 to 5?
Gotcha.
What would you tell that person?
Before I answer that question, I do want to speak about what you just talked about as far as the fix and flips and how you learned, right? Mm-hmm. And the beauty from that is there was less risk.
Yes.
And you were able to educate yourself in the process.
Yep.
You were able to see step by step the process, the subcontractors, the general contractors, the material cost, all of that without it being your responsibility.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
And so for construction wise, me getting into development, the beauty of that, what made it easier was I was already doing general contracting and subcontracting work, right? Okay. So I had the relationships with the subcontractors, I had relationship with other GC companies, I had relationships with suppliers, right? And so going into a development, it's just like, oh, I'm gonna use this person here, that person there, and then you already know their prices. Right. So just imagine if you didn't have that experience, you were green to the fix and flip, or I didn't have the experience in general contracting, and I was green to development. Man, how much money can you lose?
A lot.
Before you realize, oh, we should have did it this way, right?
A lot.
And so to answer your question, when it comes to the 9 to 5, the person that's working a job, you don't have the luxury of time to manage that project, right? Mm-hmm. And so the most important thing is to make sure that you're partnering with someone that has a good book of business.
Yes.
And that is good at managing the projects, because that's where you lose money.
Yes.
Project management. Yeah. If somebody's not managing their projects properly, money goes out of the window. You don't get the returns that you want to get, and then you start to lose money. Right. So you want to partner with somebody that has a good book of business and that is managing their properties. What that does is that secures your investment, right? Mm-hmm. And so you may not have the time because you have a 9 to 5 job, but then you may have resources, and you want those resources to work for you. So you put that money into an asset that is going to give you a return.
Got it. Got it. No, I totally agree with that one. Guys, trust me, you want to listen to that advice because even him having that experience, all the headaches I see him go through with the GC, even though he's his best friend, it was like they'll cuss each other out because there's a delay. You told me it's 1,000, now it's 1,800. It was a bunch of stuff, but it was none, like you said, it was none of my responsibility.
Yeah.
And one thing, you're right. You just said something very key. You said, a good project package. I'm assuming you're saying make sure you vet them to know that they've actually done.
Yeah. So experience is so important. So earlier you talked about getting into development.
Right,
and the reason why I said don't is because it's like, if you don't know anything about development, it is too risky and it's too capital intense for you to just be trial and error.
100%. 100%.
And so when it comes to the project itself, there is so much work before the project comes out of the ground that you have to do to make sure the deal works. Right? Because, I think it's a proverb that says, if you don't count the cost before building the house, then you're a fool. Right? And so that's development 101. It's like, you have to know how much you're going to make. You have to know how much the build is going to cost. You have to know the land costs, the survey, the engineer. You have to know all these costs beforehand, what you can comfortably put it on the market for, and then what it will sell for. And the market changed. So let's say like I build something and I have it, I purchased a property for $30,000. I built it for $290. So all in, I'm at $320, right? And I want to sell it for $400,000, make a small margin, or $500,000. Well, let's say I plan to sell it for $500,000, but the market changed. I can only get $400,000. So these are the things that you have to watch. These are the things that you have to be mindful of. So you want somebody that knows exactly what they're doing,
100%.
And then you invest with that person, knowing that, okay, there's a possibility that I'm risking my money, but there's a possibility that I'm going to make a lot of money.
Got it. So let's say somebody, maybe they've already started in real estate, right? They've done maybe wholesale, or they have one rental, or they've done one fix and flip. What advice would you give to somebody who's trying to transition from being a worker in real estate to becoming a business owner? Because that's one of also problem that I see a lot in real estate. It's very tough for people to get out off the grind and actually start being business owners, there's a big difference.
Yes.
Being a business owner and a worker.
Yeah.
So what advice, like what kind of mindset shift you have to be able to do that in real estate?
The mindset shift that you have to have is delegation.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Good one.
And that's the hardest thing for people to do is to delegate, because it's like
it's
have
skill,
this, it's a skill, because we have this mindset that we can do it better. Right. And then if we don't have hands on the pulse, then it's going to die, right? And then that trust factor comes in. Most people don't trust people. They can't even trust their own relationship. So delegation is key. If you're not willing to delegate, if you're not willing to trust, if you're not willing to take your hands off and watch the operation, grow and also fail, and then learn from those mistakes. If you're not willing to do that, you can't succeed, because there's so many moving parts, right? It's easy to do a fix and flip, right? Because you already have the structure there. And then there's some minor cosmetics, maybe $30,000, and then you get to make money. Let's say somebody rip you off $35,000. The small margins there, but you're still going to make money. The structure's already there. When it comes to you running a business and doing 30, 40 fix and flip, now, you see what I'm saying? Now you have to be hands off. You have to trust people to manage. So that's why we rely on our project managers on these projects to keep the projects in line. And we have touch points to where that project manager reports to corporate, right? And at that point, you have a pulse on each job. And of course, we have guys that walk the field the whole nine. And then we have our budgets. We're always checking the budgets. Like, where are we here? Where are we there? Sometimes we're on budget. Sometimes we may be off, and sometimes we may be under, but it all balances it out. And so you have to be willing to be hands off, and you have to be really good at delegating.
Yeah.
And that's hard because you're actually telling people what to do, and people are suggesting to you better ways to do things. So it's humility at the same time. You can be the owner, but can you also be a student when somebody's telling you, hey, Mamadou, we can save 20,000 if we implement this.
Right.
You know, but you're like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
You think you know everything.
Right.
But this guy's about to save you a bunch of money, but do you trust that?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, I think with ownership and leadership, you have to be humble.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Is a big mindset shift in terms of also real estate. What I found, would you agree, is a team sport.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't do it alone. Now, any business actually, like, because once you get into real estate, really to go from just being somebody who, you know, just renovate houses, but do it from 1 to 10 to, you have to become a business owner at that point, right?
Yeah.
You cannot be the one on the field swinging the hammers, but all those people matters, and they're part of your team, whether that be the attorney, the transaction coordinators, the project managers. So I feel like we entrepreneurs, we have a hard time sometimes getting away from the ego of I can do it better than everybody, right? And just listen for feedback. But one thing for sure that real estate led me back to is the days where I used to play soccer. It doesn't matter how much you try, just you alone with that ball, there is no way you win in a game.
Yeah,
you need the whole other. So yeah, it's definitely a big. Any book that you suggest for that?
Oh man,
like, what's your favorite ever mindset book?
Favorite ever mindset book is the Think and Grow Rich. That was.
It's right behind him, guys.
Book. Yeah,
that's our we call it our entrepreneurship Bible.
You know, the first time I read that book was during COVID because I had so much time.
Oh yeah. You're right.
And it, you know, I read a lot of books during that time.
Okay.
Start With Why was one of them.
Okay.
The Way of the Sovereign Man. That's a phenomenal book, by the way. Yeah. So I've read a lot of books, but I would say the Think and Grow Rich was incredible because what you're talking about right now is going from like a person that's working to a business owner. That's a mindset shift.
Completely.
Right?
Completely.
And that's something that sounds great, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
You know, because you have to mentally, you know, put away a lot of information that you were taught, and you have to relearn, and you have to recondition your mind, right? Especially if you're planning to walk the uncharted path, which is entrepreneurship, which is very hard. It's not easy. No. And that's why, you know, I don't like a lot of these coaches online because they make it seem like it's so easy, but man, it is very challenging because what you're doing is you're saying like, forget the comfort. Yeah. Forget the steady paycheck.
Yes.
Forget all that. I'm going to use my creative brain, and I'm going to create something that has been created by someone else or has been done by someone else, but I'm going to do it a little bit better. I'm going to bet on myself. I'm going to believe in myself, and I'm going to accomplish this, right? And as you have this great idea, and it hasn't been vetted yet, because once you have to put action behind it. Once you start to put action behind this great idea, it doesn't just go like that. You know, there's always the learning curve, the highs and the lows, and you have to mentally keep yourself sane in order to continue to push forward. So it's a challenge. And so, you know, when I'm talking about these coaches online, it's just like, we know how much capital it takes to build a business, right? And so me personally, I don't feel comfortable taking money from somebody when I know, man, you're going to need that to start this LLC, this business and all of that. So I'm going to take it, I'm going to teach you. And then now you got nothing, you know, because I told you, oh, for this amount of dollars, I'm going to help you do this, you know, and I'm just sharing information that they could have got for free, or I could have taken a part of that money and I'd be like, you know, I'm going to help you and walk you through. This money is going to go here, 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 here. Right. And so entrepreneurship is not easy. easy, but I feel like if you have that itch and you feel like it's for you, man, partner with the right person.
Yeah.
Get after it.
Yeah. Here's what I say about that, right? Have you ever had a 9-to-5 before?
Yeah, I have.
I mean, you can. Okay. So me too, right? Now, one of the
I
things.
didn't think about that.
One of the things. I know, right?
Yeah.
One of the things we all have in common from having 9-to-5 backgrounds is that we're used to getting up in the morning and it's another adult that tell us what to do today.
The accountability,
right?
yeah.
The accountability. We don't have to think. Your brain is almost shut off. I don't care if you're a manager. If you come, the boss has already decided this is the list, blah, 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 right?
Routes planned, everything's planned.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, because my brothers and I, we do workshops all over Georgia where we teach newbies, right? One of the things, absolutely free, by the way, but one of the things that I've noticed from a lot of people, you just said something very key. You said when there was COVID, you read books because you had free time.
Yeah.
Most people, their free time, they're bench watching Netflix. They're not reading the book because that they don't see free time as an opportunity.
Yeah.
To learn something. So like normally you go to your 9-to-5 and then from 5 to 9, that's where you work on your dream, especially for the 9-to-5er that, hey, every single day I'm miserable. Like for me, that was my situation. When I go to work, I'm miserable. There's people that love their jobs. Nothing wrong with that. But when I transition into real estate, I learned really quick. Oh, now when I wake up, I have to give myself tasks.
Yeah.
What do I do with all this free time? And so it's either one, you go into comfort mode, or two, you get super scared and then you run back to, oh, I always have that job, worst case scenario. So if you approach it with that mindset, it's not going to work out. I've seen a lot of people give up just because they're like, okay, so what happened if I don't get my first real estate deal in 3 months and I cannot pay my rent? I literally a grown man older than me asked me that at a workshop. I'm like, well, I don't think entrepreneurship is for you.
Yeah.
Because the first thing is you shouldn't be worried about your bills as an entrepreneur because they are going to pile up, right? Because you're getting started, like you said. Second thing is you just mentioned the gurus. I'm on the same page with you when it comes to that because a lot of gurus on YouTube tell people, oh, just go all in, quit your job. I highly don't advise that to any newbie, especially if you've never ran a business before. No. Because if you quit your job and you have a mortgage, you have rent, you have kids, especially if you have wife and kids, right? Well, guess what? If you don't get your first deal within the first 90 days or we've seen how many people run back to their jobs because of that situation, right? So what you said right there is like the mindset shift is completely, you're going to have to brainwash yourself once you get, that's one thing we realized when we jumped in is like, whoa, we thought we doing real estate. Yeah. This has nothing to do with houses. It's pure, like now you have to like almost adopt a new identity, and reading is one of it. That Think and Grow Rich, all of us here is like it completely rewired our mind. So anybody, guys, pick up that book. I promise you, it will be the best investment ever for 2025, guaranteed. Right. So with that being said, what kind of what is the biggest project you've done so far? Like in terms of numbers.
Biggest project I've done so far, with the collective or on my own?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. The collective, it was a $53 million project.
$53 million. Yeah. Can you break down the numbers on that? That might fly over the newbies. After this, we're going to talk about a duplex.
Yeah, the smaller ones might be the best to break down.
But no, tell me the numbers on the 53.
But that was a 300 unit.
300 unit.
Yeah, development.
Okay. Georgia?
Yeah, it was in Georgia, mixed use as well. So, commercial and residential. And that one took about 3 years. Yeah, wow. Took about 3 years. Yeah. So that inspired me not to do a deal that size.
Why is that?
Because, it's when you do the math, there's so many, over 3 years, there's so many variables that could go wrong.
I agree.
And on that particular project, the fire marshal shut the project down for about almost a month, right? And so you're looking at loss of wages, loss of revenue, loss of time, the deadlines and all of that. And so that was very interesting. And so then you're trying to find work for the guys, outside of that project. Mm-hmm. And it's such a massive project to where, you can lose, and I realized that the developer on the project use a GC pass the liability onto the GC, and they were like pretty much free and clear as the owner. So then you learn from those, how they do those projects, because there's so many liabilities in the larger projects. So I'm like, if you 100 units, 60 unit, 30 unit. I mean, 30 unit, you can probably finish that within 9 months or so. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's just like, it's not a lot of risk,
right.
And then there's not a lot of time for you got weather. 3 years, you got everything, right?
You can wake up in a whole new market with a new president.
Exactly. True. So there's a whole bunch of things that you can't necessarily factor in, and so they had sold that project twice during the development. Yeah,
they sold it twice.
Project was sold twice.
How you do that?
So they sold to an owner. That owner started the project, and then they sold. Actually, it's sold 3 times actually. So a new owner came in, made some changes, had a different budget, of course. And then before they finished it, they sold it all together. So, and that's it. I noticed, like, for projects like that, that's the game. It's just to sell them off before you finish them.
Of course. So in 3 years, what is the profit margin or something like that?
I never looked into the numbers on that particular project.
It has to be big.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So now let's say somebody's
getting
started.
But who loses? If you're the original guy, you're probably taking a little loss in between. Of course. Most of those guys were taking losses.
Especially with that delay.
Yeah.
So now somebody getting started, obviously, today, and is like, hey, 53 million is over my head. I just want to do a single family, make money today, or a duplex. What is the average profit margin on a single family? You guys call it specs build, right?
That's Average profit margin on a spec build is anywhere from 70,000 to 150. I mean, if you get lucky, you get a couple 100,000.
Okay, depending on how much you purchase the land, construction costs.
Yeah. Land costs, construction costs plays a factor.
How long it takes to complete
for a spec home? You're looking at like 90 days.
90 days?
Yeah, 3 to 6 months at the most. 3 months generally. Yeah.
How about on a duplex?
A duplex, that's basically like 2 homes at one time. You look at the same time frame.
Same time frame, but double the profits?
Yeah.
At that point?
Yeah, it all depends. It all depends. Yeah.
Got it.
It all depends on the market and where you're building. Yeah, but it's the same time frame.
Okay. So now, with somebody getting started and they're like, hey, I have zero capital. But maybe I started in real estate and I started with the wholesaling side, which I advise everybody that don't have capital but have money. Hopefully, if you don't have money, you have time. You should normally, right? And they're doing this thing called wholesaling. So obviously, they're just putting properties under contract or trying. How can they add value to a developer? That kind of person.
Oh yeah. So I mean, developers are always looking for land. We're always looking for land. So if you're putting projects under contract, well, I would say this: to add value is not to continue to do the job that they've been doing for a long time, because you can put anything under contract.
Yeah, right.
But you have to know who your buyer is, right? And if you're trying to sell to a developer, things developers want to know is, what's the zoning? Is there a survey done, which is a topography, like if there, you have to backfill or clear all that stuff. So a lot of times the developer wants something that's either a shovel ready, because shovel ready means like you can get the banks involved right away.
Right.
If it's not shovel ready, that means you have to do all the footwork. So basically, you want to basically do all the footwork prior to bringing something to the developer. Like, okay, here's the current zoning. You can put X on here, this many homes. There's a survey in place, the comps in the area. Like, if you build for this, you can get X. And doing your job to the best of your ability, because a lot of realtors and people, they don't do a great job. And, And I find myself having to go over numbers and be like, where did you get this?
Where did you get this?
Who told you could build townhomes here? And it's like, all you have to do is call the county and they'll tell you the zoning. You're just lying to people. I hate it, man, because it's like, you as a buyer, let's say you're new in construction or you're a new home buyer or you're new to development, you don't know anything. You may have money, you may have good credit or what have you. And this guy is telling you like, oh, you can build 10 townhomes on there. And let's say it's a deal. Like you can buy that property for a deal. Like, you know, and you're like, oh man, this is a great deal. You're going to be excited about the price and what they sold you. The fact that like you can build townhomes or 20 townhomes or whatever. And then let's say you start to do your due diligence, right? And let's say you purchased already, because I've ran into a lot of investors who have purchased based on realtors and people selling them this dream. And then you realize like, okay, I bought 6 acres, but I can only build one house per 3 acre. So then you don't have a deal at all. It doesn't work anymore, and you're just stuck. And so for me, that's why I encourage people like, don't go into development if you don't know anything about that. Learn from a developer, learn from somebody that's doing it. But if you're going to sell some property to somebody, there's every county you can call zoning and planning, and you can find out what the current zoning of the property is. It's a simple phone call. And at that point.
And they're paid to answer these questions.
Yeah, it's their job.
Because the new development, the most important thing you can find out is what can you put on it.
Yes, exactly.
And how many, like you said, 6 acres, can I actually have more than just 3?
Don't be like, oh, there's 6 acres, you could put 20 townhomes because I saw it done before. But the current zoning in this county is like, there's no more townhomes. They're not allowing you to do townhomes in this county. I have to be single family detached homes. So this stuff you got to know. Just call planning and zoning, get that information. And then if you want to sell to developers, that's what you want to do. You want to do all that research and homework that they're going to do anyways. But if you've done it for them, it just makes it easier.
Absolutely.
It's a more appetizing project or deal.
Absolutely. Guys, one of the things I've learned when I started real estate wholesaling, right? Because obviously we sell this to cash buyers. And it's the same thing if I were to put a land under contract and then I find you, I want to wholesale you that contract, I would consider you a cash buyer at that point, right? One thing I've found is cash buyers are busy. From the get-go. So is you, the wholesaler, you have to do your due diligence. You have to know your numbers. If I really have to go back day one of the things I learned from day one is underwriting. Realtors is not part of their training. They don't know how to underwrite a deal at all. So they will sell you
houses.
Yeah, exactly. They sell houses.
And they're selling a dream home.
Yeah, but a wholesaler is different though. A wholesaler should be different.
Yeah, it should be different.
We deal with the same thing.
You should be doing research
on our end.
And you should be packaging deals.
A lot of cash buyers I've dealt with that were very bitter and will block you if you tell them you're a wholesaler is because of that exact fact. So their emails are flooded with deals that makes absolutely no sense. So they look at it and go, where is the profit margin on this flip? Like, how did you even put this under contract? And it goes back to you knowing your numbers. So the first skill, guys, you want to learn is sit down and learn how to actually comp a deal, underwrite a deal, because your cash buyer is too busy on the field managing the project, whether that be the fix and flip, right? Whether that be managing the new development project. You don't have time to sit down and comp their deal for them. You're just trying to buy it. So when it comes to you, all the numbers should be already lined up, and then you can do your due diligence because you have experience. I found the best cash buyers that I've been able to build personal relationship with and actually help me through my journey is because I saved them that time. They're like, bro, I'm managing 12 flips or new builds, and a wholesaler send me their deal, and I also now have to sit down on my computer and help them underwrite it because they don't know their numbers. So it goes down to know your numbers, guys. There's 2 skills if you get started as a real estate wholesaler, right? If you don't have the money, that's probably the best way to start. You want to know how to underwrite deals. Second thing, and let me know if you agree, Phil, is how to find money, like how to raise money. I would probably put that one first, but
I would put that one first.
So, but anyway, the reason I'm bringing that up is because if they're trying to get in, but they don't have the capital, like you said, for them to start, but they could learn how to go find motivated landowners, put them under contract, and then maybe find a developer in that local market and say, hey, I have a land under contract and I'm going to wholesale it to you, but can I come and see how like, can you mentor me hands-on? Because that's value, right? If you bring in value to the person. That's why I bring that up.
I would say this to what you're saying. There's systems for everything, right? And if you understand the system and how it works for development, wholesaling, then you can package a deal together, right? And the issue with a lot of people in this space, there's a lot of people going into this space to make money, right? And that's the wrong motivator, right? You will make money if you have the right deal and it's packaged properly, right? But if you're just trying to make money and just putting stuff together, it's like, see if it sells, man, dude, that's where you get a lot. You're selling bad deals to people,
right?
So people aren't going to come back to you, 100%. Right? And the stuff that you're putting together, you're missing so much information, right? So my thing I would say this. Maybe we should do, you remember when you would go to the library and they had those books like Math for Dummies?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we need to do that, like, wholesaling for dummies and development for dummies, because, and not saying that anybody's dumb in this case, but simplifying the steps, right? Of what you should look for. And dude, I can't tell you how many times I've been on the phone with people and I've walked through these steps. Investors, people that have money and have great ideas, but they will lose that money because they don't understand the steps and how to make the deal work, right? And those steps are very crucial, because if you spend money on the architect before getting the survey, before the engineer, you're just wasting time. Banks aren't going to give you any money.
100%. Okay. So let's say on just maybe last 3 questions.
Yeah.
Somebody has $50,000, whether it's just by themselves or maybe, they have like group of friends, they put that money together. $50,000, how would you advise them? What is their first step to take into real estate? But also, how can they put that capital to work to have long-term success in real estate? Like how to start the right way, and what step would you take if you were in their shoes and you have 50 grand, but you've never done it?
If I've never done it and I have $50,000, I would get with a builder, a GC, or a developer. And the reason why I say GC, because the GC is like, he's building homes.
Right.
The builder's building homes.
Right.
And a lot of times they have cash flow issues, right?
Okay.
And so they're making money, but they don't have money to do their own deal. Right.
Got it.
But they have the skill set. There's everything's there, like from all the subs, the whole nine. And so I would find a builder that either A, has property, or a developer that has property, in a certain area and they need cash. And once you look through the numbers and it looks good and it pans out pencil wise, and the area, because it's simple math, I would put my money there, right? Because at that point, you're not taking on the risk of trying to run the entire project. You're just infusing capital into something that already works. Yeah. And once it's built, then you get your return, which will be more than you put in. And then you get to do that over and over again until you learn the process, and then you get to do it yourself. Okay, I'm going to fund this deal myself.
Right.
Right. So that's what I would suggest to do, is find somebody that's actually building something and infuse that little capital, because I say little capital, but the capital is never little. Yeah. Because when it comes to a deal that you're doing, let's give you an example of a lot that you're going to build a single family home. The bank is wanting to look for 10 to 20%, down, okay. Right? Okay. And so for somebody that's building and they have a piece of property, or you purchase the property, let's say you don't have the experience building, because the banks want to see the experience, right? Yeah. So you get somebody to have the experience and you put down the amount down. The bank brings the rest to the table. You start the process of building with that experienced builder. They do the draws, like, let's say the grading is done, the slab is done, banks give you a draw, then you start to the next phase. You can then build a house with that $50,000 as the upfront money. Bank is bringing the rest. That house get built, and I'm pretty sure you would have a contract in place with the builder, 50-50 or whatever the percentage is, that after that house is built and sold, you take your proceeds after the build. That's what I would make a suggest for somebody that has money but don't know what they're doing.
That's exactly what I would do, guys.
Yeah.
If you only knew. There's nothing easy. Don't listen to the people that are not doing deals talking about it online. Now, what would you say within all your real estate career, how much money have you lost in a year? Because I know there's been bad experiences.
Is that the question that you decided?
No, that's just on top of my head.
It's just like,
I want to ask you 2 questions. One is,
man,
how much money you lost in a year? And then the second question would be, how much money have you made in a year?
I would say loss and how do I explain this? So I'm going to count not knowing how to properly do taxes as a loss.
Of course, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So hire the right tax person.
Yes.
Number one, right? Because you can lose money
a lot.
Big time if you don't have the right tax professional. And then on top of that, you could lose money as well if you don't have a good contract or a good attorney, right? Both actually, you need both.
That's true.
The reason why I say that is because there's a lot of people that don't have the money and you do the work for them and they have no intention of paying, or they have the intention of getting you all the way down. They'll do the first half, second half, get you to the finish line and then not pay. Right. And so a good contract and a good attorney is what keeps you away from that. And one of the things I would say, if you're a contractor or a subcontractor, make sure you put in your contracts that if they do not pay you, that they are liable for the attorney fees. Because if you don't have them in the contract, you're going to have to pay your own attorney fees. Yeah. And so you're going to lose a bunch of money trying to recoup that money. Right. So if I were to give a number, I would say probably around $250,000, $500,000.
Damn.
Yeah. In a year. And that's with the tax part too. Cause man, I tell you, I didn't understand why people purchased assets before the end of the year. Yeah. And so I was just like, you make the money. It's like, oh man, we had a great year.
Yeah.
And then you owe $150,000 in taxes. Right. And then you're just like, oh man, how could I avoid this? And it was like, after the fact, it's like, oh, you could have purchased that car you wanted. You're like, man.
Just write it off.
Yeah. But a lot of people think oh man, this person is just buying these cars and flexing. But no, you are purchasing assets for the company to offset the money that you made, right? So it's a good tax strategy. So just a good tax person, and then having solid contracts, having somebody vet your contracts and make sure they have the right verbiage to protect you and your business. So I think that's important.
Got it. And how much money you've made in a year?
0.
What is the most money you've made in a year? In real estate?
The most money I've made in a year in real estate, and I can only tell you what my taxes.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah, it's up there. Yeah, with the zeros. Yeah, like the sixes and the
right, guys. He's up there with zeros to where he has to buy some assets to write it off. Right, that's a difference.
But you want that problem, though.
Yeah, you do.
You want that
problem,
but a lot of people don't know that's the problem you want. Yeah, and they just think oh man, you should just make a bunch of money. But I didn't know that, and until I had to owe the government a bunch of money, and I was just like, oh my God, what are we doing? Are we really making money? This is not right. And your tax professional should know how to help you structure that.
Yeah. Guys, I'm telling you guys, there's no tiptoeing around it. Nobody fucking love paying the IRS, period. Right? If you don't have to, because that money you can take it. Can take that money, roll it. So when you see wealthy people rolling around in, I don't know, the cyber trucks, right? Some of them are buying jets on a big scale. They're not buying that to flex. They're buying that to literally write off, because now they're going to have to take that money, give it to the IRS, and you guys already know where that money is going. It's places you definitely don't want that money to be going. So why not keep it in and drive? What other cars can you write off outside of the I'm not saying you have them, but what other cars do you know of? I think the G-Wagon. You can write off the G-Wagon, right?
It's I think with the vehicles, it's 6,000 pounds.
Oh yeah, there you go.
And then you have creative ways of purchasing vehicles, which they've created for people that have wealth, which I thought was interesting, right? Yeah. So that there's one, you can Google this, right? So I was just trying to figure out. I was like, man, how are these people buying these cars? Well, there is a hurricane relief fund, right? Okay. Where you can donate money, right? And one of the car dealerships built a car and you purchase that car. I think it was the sticker price was $20 million. Mm-hmm. And that money went to a donation to disaster relief, right? But you got this 1 in 100 car, right? Which means it holds its value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, wow, that is so interesting. So it's like you should look into that and don't buy a car because it's like, oh, I want this car or this is a nice car. And it's like, oh, gonna get a loan or this. That's not smart.
Yeah.
Buy a car if you need a car for work or business or life. But when it comes to writing off taxes, that's when you buy the car that you want because it just makes business sense.
I mean, guys, if you have to buy a car or whatever you buy to write off, that means you're making a lot of money. The IRS wants you to pay maybe $150,000 in taxes or even more, right? Depending what kind of business you're in. So like it is a problem you actually want. So with that being said, Uncle, where can they find you?
Where can they find me?
Yeah, your Instagram.
Right here.
Your Instagram.
Instagram. So the business Instagram, we don't really use that as much, but it's at the MP organization. And my Instagram is at Mr. Blow, I think. I don't know.
We're gonna put it down in the links below.
Yeah, so I can't remember. I was like, look, I'm not really on Instagram as much as I used to be.
Yeah.
And I recently changed my Instagram, so I don't.
We'll put it in the description below, guys. We'll put it in the description below. But guys,
Mr.
listen.
Phillip Blow? Yes, Mr. Phillip Blow. You can
there you have it. But we're gonna put it down below. So guys, listen, there you have it. If you have any more questions, just comment, leave a comment below. And another thing is, if you're in the Georgia market and you're interested, we just did an event, last week on Saturday?
Yeah, last week.
Just did a whole event in person. It was cool. Newbies came in. So if you're in the market, Georgia, in 2025, we're absolutely going to take newbies every 2 weeks, maybe between 5 to 7, take you guys on the field, show you projects we're working on, and you get to ask all your questions on the field. So make sure you tap in, and we're going to drop a podcast every single Monday and Thursday. So look out for 2025. One last question. I have to ask this one. Trump is back in office from January. Do you think the real estate market is going to do better or worse?
It will do better.
Let's go, guys. You heard it here. Get the book, Think and Grow Rich. Thank you, guys. Boom, boom, boom.